there, this is Marty Melrose, also known as Midas Marty, and my special guest today is Matthew Kenahan of the Bitcoin Society. So Matthew, I always like to get started in asking people, how did they first get started with Bitcoin? Tell us your story.
Sure. I'm happy to answer that. First of all, though, let me say thank you for having me, Marnie. It's a pleasure to be on this. So my involvement and kind of interest in Bitcoin started very early on in college because I was trading stocks and bonds through like Scott Trade, and I kept on seeing these stories about Bitcoin and digital currency pop up in my newsfeed. And as I started to do more and more research, I decided that I really wanted to get involved. So it's funny, I was actually handed a little paper wallet from my girlfriend's father, who received it from a cab driver. So it was just like a $1, the equivalent of $1 in Bitcoin that I redeemed, opened up on, I think it was Coinbase, was the first account I opened. And I just saw how seamless and easy to use it was. And ever since then, I mean, the first transaction that I made with Bitcoin really kind of locked me in. I saw how simple it was, how I didn't have to put my information out there through any third party that might get hacked, and I was hooked. So
That's awesome. And so what really engaged you about Bitcoin? What is like driving you to evangelize Bitcoin so avidly?
I would have to say the coolest thing about Bitcoin is its ability to kind of revolutionize the peer-to-peer platforms. So whether we're talking about philanthropic initiatives or crowdfunding, I think it just has the potential to change the entire landscape. So I have, a personal commitment to philanthropy, and I think that stems from my father because he's actually worked in philanthropy his entire life. Part of the time on the fundraising side, and now he manages a grant foundation that gives primarily to education and healthcare causes. So when I saw that we could create a unique QR code for a very specific cause, maybe even a specific individual who needed, let's say, a medical operation, and that you could do this just instantaneous transaction, donation format, I was very motivated and thought that this is something that the public really needs to know about, and we need to clarify the perception and show that Bitcoin's use is not just for the Silk Road or other activities, but it can be used for very positive aspects as well.
Absolutely. And I think we need to really realize that when new technologies come out, like for instance when the internet first came out, a lot of people don't actually realize that even back then everybody was saying, oh, that's a den of thieves and pornographers on the internet, right?
Exactly.
And that's the way, that conservative mentality always is when something new comes along. Oh, that's scary, that's bad, stay away, right? And
Exactly.
until it actually, gets into the mainstream where people are like, hey, wait a minute, this could be useful. This could revolutionize our lives. This could really change everything. This could give rise to the Arab Spring. This could help, fall the Berlin Wall. All of those fun things that happen that, the internet has partially contributed to.
Absolutely. I mean, if you think about innovation in the past, I mean, almost every significant, groundbreaking innovation that has met resistance of some sort. So like you said, email even in the internet, email was a protocol and people thought that there would be no use for it. But I think this brings up an even larger aspect of the importance of network effects. So I think that Bitcoin has reached a threshold where, our transactions are going to surpass that of PayPal, daily transactions. So the fact that it's being used, there's clear widespread use. We know that, it's a very strong network, and I think it's growing, and the confidence is illustrated by the venture capital that's flowing into that mirrors the venture capital that flowed into the internet in the 90s.
As a matter of fact, Mark Andreessen, who was the co-author of the Mosaic browser, He's
Hmm.
one of the big VCs in this arena, isn't he?
Absolutely, yeah. And you know, at Bitcoin 2014 in Amsterdam, that was the first major conference that I had been to and was able to network and speak with so many intelligent individuals who had come from so many different industries. And just hearing people speak about it, the confidence behind it, it gave me a really good feeling about
And
Bitcoin in the
I'm
future.
sure that winning the most impactful charity award at that conference had something to do with that great feeling too, huh?
Yeah, yeah. So I'm excited. That's opened up a lot of partnership possibilities. We're actually speaking with a not-for-profit organization called Brew Brew. I believe their website is brewbrew.org. And they're kind of aiming to bring telecommunication networks to towns and villages in Africa that do not have access to this. And they're kind of facilitating these networks. And we kind of want to bring Bitcoin into that arena, kind of like have this synergistic effort between what Brew Brew is doing and what we're doing at the Bitcoin Society. So.
I'm really excited about that. You know, and when we first started off, you shared with me your mission. I really loved it. Do you want to share that with us so that people can kind of get to know you? Those people that the people who watch my show aren't necessarily people in the Bitcoin world. These are people that are, you know, just new to Bitcoin. So tell us exactly what the Bitcoin Society is and what you do.
I'm glad you brought that up because I think that our platform and website is a perfect resource for them. And we actually have 15 people on the team now from also Washington University graduates or current students. And we're really trying to develop resources for our mission, which is to kind of be or advocating and promoting the positive uses of Bitcoin. So we have 3 pillars to our website, which is an informational guide, which will be geared towards all levels of understanding of financial systems and digital currencies. We have the news and information, which is aggregated from verified sources, but also we kind of dispel slanderous stories that may have a negative effect on our community or on the price. And then lastly, there's the community pillar, which has our philanthropy initiatives, lists where merchants who accept Bitcoin, where you can find those, where you can go to trade best practices through forum. And we're also launching an app in about 2 weeks that'll be all-encompassing of all those features and be right on your mobile phone. So we're really excited about that.
And so what platforms will that app run on? The iOS as well as Android?
So we're planning on releasing it iOS first, and it should be on the Android store, Google Play, Amazon, hopefully. We have to iron out a few things, but we actually partnered with a mobile wallet developer, so there may be, excuse me, there may be a wallet feature on that app as well. So we're looking to get a lot of people started with Bitcoin and really simplify the process for them.
That's wonderful. That's wonderful. And you were showing me a little bit earlier before the show these snazzy offices that you're in. Do you want to show that to us real quick? Tell us where you are.
Of course. So I'm glad you brought that up. It's Bauer Hall. It just opened up actually this May. State-of-the-art building. It's at Washington University in St. Louis, and the reason we have access to it is because we get to offer internships to the current undergraduate students here at the number 5 business school in the U.S., and we also employ people full-time afterwards. But I'll give you a quick tour of the spot. So here's our video conferencing room.
Nice.
I'll let you guys say hello to the team. We've got our executive director over there.
On the phone, where he should be.
Exactly. And this is the inside of the building. It's a beautiful spot. But,
oh my goodness, that is beautiful.
and we have our team working in here. If you guys want to turn around and say hi. All right, I'll stop shaking the camera.
You're making us ill.
Yeah, I'm sorry.
That's okay. No problem. No problem. I like to be out there in the real world. This is exciting to, than just being stuck in a room, right?
Exactly. Exactly.
That's wonderful. So tell us more about, you told me some of the initiatives that you're working on. I know you can't tell us about all the initiatives, but those that you can, share some of those with us. They sound
Sure. So in terms of the philanthropy, so as you know, we donated our most impactful charity award, that Bitcoin, to an organization called Women's Annex Foundation,
I
right?
love those guys. I love what they're doing. I am.
They're absolutely incredible. They're providing internet access, learning resources to over 55,000 girls, students in Afghanistan, and teaching them how to take ownership of their money, and also providing a platform in which they can get paid for their blog posts and any kind of content that they create. So we're working closely with them, and I'm going out to New York the week of the 7th to speak with Fresh Defero, who is one of the main pioneers of that platform. And so we're going to be launching bitcoincourses.org, which is going to be solely focused in having these kind of courses that, as I alluded to earlier, of each level of understanding. So
That's wonderful.
and those
Yeah,
will be free.
I was really engaged with what they were doing because a couple of years ago I used to date a Navy SEAL, and one of the things that he told me about was that they found that women who were educated would not send their sons into the Taliban training camps. And that's one of the key things about women in Afghanistan and education, and one of the reasons why the Taliban is so much against educating them is because once they become educated and empowered, they make different decisions. And I mean, the global long-term consequences of that are significant, no matter what they're learning, right? Whether they're learning, to have a business or learning basic education, the fact that we can empower them in that way, I think, could really affect the next generation.
Certainly. I think that Bitcoin is going to play a very large role in gender equality, because it kind of gives you a way to take control of your own finances. So, I mean, even in the U.S., we don't have gender equality. So I can only imagine what it's like for women in places like Afghanistan and other places around the world.
Exactly. I mean, even here, it was funny. My son's 12 years old, and I had just switched banks, and the bank manager said to me, you could, when your son's 13, he can have a bank account. And I'm like, why would you want a bank account? Because I pay him in BTC.
Yeah.
And he doesn't pay any fees. It's funny because his father had set up like a savings account for him
Sure.
a few years ago that was like a custodial in our names and things like that. And I went to it, just a couple of months ago. There was no money left in it. They had taken all the money out. I'm like, why would I want to have a bank account for him? And also the money that goes in there with the price of Bitcoin rising.
Exactly.
I don't have interest in any, bank accounts here in the United States. Why would I want my money in there? Especially if I'm going to take the money out.
Couldn't agree with you more. And funny story that kind of parallels to that is, on this past Father's Day, I gave Bitcoin to my dad. It got him set up with a mobile wallet. I had already had some of the Bitcoin holdings that was from him, but he didn't have his own personal wallet. So I was like, all right, Dad, we're making this happen. Happy Father's Day. It was a little QR code in a card. So
that's awesome. That's awesome.
Had value.
Yeah, what I do, because we like to get paid for our services, I do online workflow stuff with Podio, which is a product by Citrix, in addition to my extreme passion for Bitcoin. And we prefer to get paid in BTC. So what we actually do is we pay people to get on our newsletter. So when they get onto our newsletter, we just send them 1 cent in BTC just so that they have an experience. And that's one of our guides on academy.midasmarney.com is how to thank your newsletter subscribers with Bitcoin so that they have the first experience of Bitcoin, right? They're never going to forget that.
Absolutely.
And even just a little bit, and now they can have that experience of having some Bitcoin and, you know, starting to engage with it, because what we found is that people who have a Bitcoin wallet, all of a sudden their whole response to Bitcoin changes very, very quickly.
I think I'm a living example of that, so I could not agree with you more. We're actually launching an initiative, it's called Bitcoin for Textbooks, and students with .edu email addresses can redeem old textbooks, so money you've already spent, and in exchange we give them the corresponding Bitcoin value for that textbook. So in turn, setting them up with a wallet, getting them started,
That's
just another way to facilitate it. So.
That's awesome. I love this. I love this. What else is going on?
Oh man, there's a lot. So a lot. It has been a very hectic few months, but I think the mobile app is one of the coolest things that's in development. We're speaking with several partners or potential partners in terms of co-promotional things. So I can't name specific names, but professional sports organization that is interested in promoting Bitcoin use and possibly accepting it. So we'll see. I should have more information about that by the end of this week. So I'll be sure to let you know first, Marnie.
Yeah, you'll have to, you know, tweet me on that, and I'll send that out. Of course, you know me; I'm always talking about Bitcoin. I barely ever talk about what we actually do. I'm so excited. Really, you know, it changes things in such a fundamental way. And I'm sure you agree with me that the conversations that you have had since you got involved with Bitcoin, there's a different quality to those than what you've had before, I would venture to say, yeah?
So even at the beginning of the semester, so you know, early January, when I kind of first like opened up and started telling people about this startup idea that I was developing, you know, oftentimes it would just be scoffed at or ridiculed, or, you know, Bitcoin, like, didn't that go bankrupt? Like, people think it's synonymous with Mt. Gox, and now you're seeing less and less of that. I think people are becoming a lot more informed, and I think that we're also seeing a significant rise in the positive uses. So there are tons of organizations now doing philanthropic initiatives. I know that Sean's Outpost, and they have been for a while. Sean's Outpost is a great organization. Big Give, they're doing very well. But yeah, I think the general sentiment and image is changing, and that's kind of what we want to do and maintain. So,
awesome.
But I think the conversation that we had, even, you know, you can tell that there's so much excitement around Bitcoin.
Absolutely, and these are important things that we're talking about, right? They're important and global reaching, and I think that Bitcoin engages people to really think about, you know, their financial future a little bit more than they have perhaps in the past. And understanding global finance and how money moves around the world, I know that has been a big thing for me. And it's just, I've always been slightly, you know, interested in it, but now it's just like diving into it. And really, once you start to put the pieces of the puzzle together, I think now it's really of essence. Like, the timing is really critical right now, especially with where the US dollar is. And, you know, the fact that some of the BRIC countries are moving against the US dollar. And then if you look at fiatleak.com, the amount of BTC that's flowing into China on a daily basis, just go to fiatleak.com, open it up, let it run for a few hours, and it will terrify you how much is going into BTC from China. And we don't get our act together, they are going to own it. And it's supposed to be illegal over there, but of course the Chinese never pay attention to their government anyways. They're just like, oh yeah, whatever.
Yeah. So that's one thing, I'm really interested in is the way that the price reacts in China when this regulatory news comes out, because they've been very much like flip-flop, right? And I think that's where you've seen a lot of the price dives and surges.
I think the true value of BTC is actually where it's at right now. If you notice, just before China came in, it was around 600.
Right.
And then China coming in, threw it over up to almost 1,200. And then when they came out, it dropped it back down again. And then, of course, Mt. Gox, that whole fiasco.
Of course.
Freaked people out, especially here in the United States. And but now it's been trending pretty stable within that 4-6 range for the last it's been like since February. It's been trading in that range.
Mm-hmm.
In that consolidation side.
Dipped out a few times, but it's usually met like a point of resistance and bounced right back up to the levels that you were speaking of. So yeah, it's nice to see the stability. And as we were talking about the amount of daily transactions, that value is poised to surpass the daily transactions on PayPal, which I think is. And
it will happen fairly soon. I mean, even just me today, I helped another company, a large community up in Washington. They have 26 members. It's about 8 families, and they've decided to move heavily, and they're a land group, and they own a whole bunch of land in Washington, and they've decided to move aggressively into Bitcoin. And then just today, Brett Thomas of the Conscious Business Coalition told me that he's like, I'm ready to go, and so I'm going to be, I'm one of their coaches, and they're ready to move into Bitcoin now and start accepting it for themselves and seeing what that means for them. So yeah, all of us working together just a little bit every day, right?
Just chugging along.
And get stuff out there, right? Like these communities and these conscious businesses that are doing the right things, and of course you can't ignore huge companies like Expedia, the largest online travel company in the world, now accepting Bitcoin for hotel reservations. Now we just have to get them to do it for air as well.
Absolutely. But you can buy flights. I think it's cheapair.com. I believe they accept it.
Yeah, exactly. I've used them. And I know Andreas uses them for a lot of stuff that he does. He's like, yeah, that's a great company.
But I mean, think about Overstock. I think it's fair to say the first major online retailer that was accepting it, right? And they did, what was it, 100,000 in sales in Bitcoin, like in 24 hours?
I go through so many numbers.
Trust me, I definitely feel you on that.
If you just go to my website, read through my blog, search for Amazon, it'll be in there. Or Overstock, it'll be in there somewhere.
Absolutely. No, there are just a ton of numbers. It's an unbelievable amount.
Good. Well, I wish you all the best, and I totally thank you for coming on to the show today. And do you have parting words for us today?
Well, I would say if you aren't that familiar with Bitcoin and you're looking to get started with it, please feel free to reach out to either myself or any of the 15 team members who are also very well versed with Bitcoin. Also, Marnie is, as anyone who's watching knows, is a great resource. So I just want to say thank you so much for having me on here, and I look forward to speaking more and trading great ideas in the future.
Absolutely. We'll have you on again, I'm sure, when some of these announcements come out, right?
Very excited. You'll be one of the first to know.
Okay, fabulous. Thank you so much, Matthew.
All right, have a great rest of your day.
You too. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.